here's why I say start with the buyer, because the buyer tells you exactly what type of deal you need to point towards between timelines, pricing, condition, all that stuff. What are the deals you're looking for the buyers that you have? If you're trying to do a deal quickly, you can't really go after something that's tied up in probate court, right? So some of those probate lists, depending on what you're getting in there, may not work for you. If you're thinking more long-term pipeline, those are great deals because they'll happen eventually and you can start to develop a relationship. I like code violation stuff. I like, tax delinquent stuff is great. Inheritance is also great. Again, some of this stuff you cross-reference, right? So just think about, let's reverse engineer it for a second. Okay. Can we get more people to chime into? If you guys are on here, hop in the chat and let's just reverse engineer this for a second, right? So here's why I say start with the buyer, because the buyer tells you exactly what type of deal you need to point towards, okay? Between timelines, pricing, condition, all that stuff. If you have a hedge fund buyer that's looking for rental properties, then am I going to chase owner-occupied homes? Probably not initially. If there's some in neighborhoods where people want to move that can become premium rentals that I can sell at a premium to the hedge fund, maybe. That depends on the market, right? What are they buying in the market? So now, again, back to the product. What's the product they're purchasing? I've touched on this a little bit the last couple of weeks, but here's an example of why you kind of have to think this through a little bit and figure out these little pockets in the list that you can explore. So here's an example. Imagine a rental property owner, right? So an absentee owner, non-owner occupied, rental property owner that purchased a property in Ohio, let's just say. They live in California and they bought it right before COVID. I think we may have talked about this at least a little bit the last couple of weeks. So think about that owner right there, okay? Rental property owner, they're absentee, they're out of state, they're in California. They bought in Ohio, or replace whatever market you want here. The point is they're not managing it themselves, right? So there's a reason for these filters, right? Because it's targeting a certain type of person. What are we looking for? We're looking for somebody who's working with property management. Why? Working with property management, right? Because it's a tough gig. Great property managers are even hard to deal with. And then you have tenant disruption, right? Motivation, risk factor, tenant disruption, COVID stuff, eviction moratoriums, all that kind of stuff, right? So what am I doing? I'm building different, everybody goes to the standard ones: tax delinquent, code violation, inheritance, probate, right? These are the hot button list names that you hear everywhere, but that's what everybody's chasing after. You have to think of a little bit deeper, where am I going to find the deals that I can really make happen, right? So that's why we talk about some of the high equity stuff, right? The people that have lived in a property for a long time, 20 years, that still have the original mortgage. Right? We're targeting a certain type of avatar of seller because the combination of factors there point to there may be a deal happening. So it's not the obvious ones, but everybody's hitting those obvious ones, right? So we're looking for some smarter pockets that we can find in there. Yeah, so Jermaine, maybe just tighten up and again, code violations, go a little bit deeper on anything that's code violation where the mailing address of the property is California, right? Because now we're going to get California owners that are you know what I mean? I don't know what market you're in. I don't remember. But you got to go look at how much different that situation is there. And really it'll still work for people in the same state. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not, just because they live in the state, they may still have a property manager. But it's more about that person who's in California who bought in Ohio, they bought that as an investment property that they have very little emotional connection to.